When life pushes you to your knees and you feel like everything is falling apart, that's often when Allah is holding you the closest. You see, when we say Allah never lets you fall, it's not just a comforting phrase, it's a truth rooted in His divine mercy. What we call a fall is in reality a lesson. What we call a failure is often a redirection. And what we call a breakdown is sometimes the exact moment Allah rebuilds you from within. Because when a believer falls, he doesn't truly hit the ground, Allah catches him before he breaks. He may allow the stumble, but never the destruction. There are moments when your heart feels heavy, when every effort seems wasted, and when you whisper to yourself, maybe Allah has left me. But the truth is, Allah never leaves His servant. It's the servant who forgets to see Allah in the moment. Sometimes, Allah removes the comfort so you may feel the need for His closeness. Sometimes He allows pain so your heart stops depending on the world and starts depending on Him. The hardest trials are not punishments, they are purifications. They are the soft touches of a Lord who loves you enough to correct your direction before you lose your way completely. Think about it. Every time you thought it was over, somehow you got through it. Every time you believed the pain was unbearable, He gave you strength to bear it. That wasn't coincidence, that was mercy in action. Allah doesn't let His chosen ones collapse in despair. He builds them in silence. Every tear that fell in sujud, every moment of confusion, every unanswered dua, it all shaped you into who you are meant to be. What you thought was a fall was actually a rise in disguise. We often measure our worth through outcomes, success, failure, results, but Allah measures through effort, sincerity, and patience. He sees what people don't. When you think you've fallen short, Allah might already be raising your rank in unseen ways. You see, falling isn't always about losing control. Sometimes it's about surrendering control, handing it over to the one who knows the path better than you do. The believer doesn't panic when he slips because he knows who holds him. And when you realize that, your whole outlook changes. Life becomes less about avoiding falls and more about trusting the one who lifts you every time you do. There's a beauty in knowing that even when everything else fails, Allah never fails you. He doesn't let your pain go to waste. He doesn't let your sincerity go unnoticed. He doesn't let your weakness define you. Allah takes the broken pieces of your heart and arranges them in a way that's far more beautiful than before. So, don't mistake divine delay for divine neglect. Don't think silence means absence. Allah is working in ways you cannot see, protecting you, preparing you, positioning you for something better. The truth is, sometimes Allah allows you to fall a little, just so you realize that you can't stand without Him. He humbles you through trials, not to hurt you, but to heal you from pride, from attachment, from illusion. Because only when you realize that no one can catch you but Him do you truly understand what faith means. Faith is not in never falling, it's in rising every single time because you trust that Allah will not let you go. And so, whenever you stumble again, and you will, because that's the nature of being human, don't see it as failure. See it as an invitation to return. See it as Allah calling you back, whispering to your heart, come closer, I'm still here. Because no matter how hard life gets, no matter how low you feel, Allah never lets you fall. He only teaches you how to fly through the pain. We live in a world where everyone says they're tired. I'm tired of trying. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of struggling. But the truth, my brothers and sisters, is that most of us are not really tired. We're undisciplined. Because when your heart has a clear purpose, when your intention is anchored in Allah, you stop feeling drained by the effort. You stop measuring how hard the path is and start focusing on who you're walking toward. Tiredness doesn't come from the body, it comes from the heart that's disconnected from its purpose. When you know why you're doing something and for whom, even the heaviest burden starts to feel light. Think about it. When you stay up at night watching something meaningless, you don't feel exhausted. But when it's time for Fajr, suddenly you're too tired to move. The body is the same, but the intention is different. This isn't about strength or energy, it's about alignment. The heart that's connected to Allah doesn't lose drive easily because it draws its energy from sincerity, not from excitement. You're not tired, you're distracted, you're not weak, you're untrained. The moment you attach your effort to a divine reason, the fatigue fades because your soul finds direction. When the Prophet DFA and his companions faced hardship, hunger, and sleepless nights, they didn't stop and say, "We're tired." They found meaning in struggle because their hearts were anchored in Allah's promise. They knew that every hardship walked them closer to Jannah, and that perspective gave them strength no food or rest could ever provide. This is the difference between those who move with purpose and those who move with impulse. Discipline is not about how much you can do when you're motivated. It's about what you can still do when you're not. Most of us want ease before effort, comfort before commitment, reward before endurance. But the path to greatness, whether in faith, success, or self-growth, is built on small, consistent acts. You don't lose because you're tired, you lose because you stop too early. Allah created you with more strength than you believe you have. You're capable of far more, but the nafs convinces you otherwise. It whispers, take a break, you've done enough, you can start tomorrow. Yet discipline means silencing that voice and doing what's right even when it doesn't feel easy. Because what you repeat becomes who you are, and Allah loves those who are steadfast, not just those who are inspired for a moment. When you start seeing effort as worship, everything changes. Waking up early becomes an act of remembrance. Working hard becomes an act of gratitude. Staying patient becomes an act of submission. Life stops feeling heavy when you remember that your purpose isn't this world, it's to please Allah. You're not here to be comfortable. You're here to grow through discomfort. You're not here to avoid struggle. You're here to endure it beautifully, knowing every drop of sweat, every tear, every late night done for Allah's sake is written in your book of reward. The believer who is disciplined doesn't rely on mood swings or bursts of motivation. He knows his heart will fluctuate, but his intention remains steady. He understands that fatigue is part of the journey, but failure comes only when you quit. So when you tell yourself you're tired, ask instead, tired of what? Doing what's right, pursuing what's meaningful, becoming who Allah wants you to be. Maybe you're not tired, maybe you just haven't connected your struggle to a purpose yet. Because when your why is for Allah, you find strength in places you never thought existed. You stop saying, I can't do this, and start saying, with Allah I can. You stop waiting for the perfect time, and start using the time you have perfectly. And that's when you realize it was never exhaustion holding you back, it was lack of discipline. You're not tired, you're just waiting to wake up to the power Allah already placed within you. Discipline is not something that just happens to you. It's something you build one small decision at a time. It's the quiet, unseen struggle between your desires and your duty, between what feels easy and what feels right. And in that silent battle, when you choose what pleases Allah over what pleases your nafs, you are worshipping Him in one of the purest forms. Because discipline isn't about control for its own sake, it's about surrender. It's about proving through your actions that your will belongs to Allah, not to your impulses. You see, real faith isn't tested in moments of inspiration. It's tested in consistency. Anyone can be spiritual when life feels light, when motivation is high, when the heart is moved. But the true believer keeps going when no one sees, when the emotions fade, when it's difficult to stay on track. Waking up for Fajr when you'd rather sleep, lowering your gaze when no one is watching, holding your tongue when you're angry. These are all forms of discipline. And each one is a hidden act of worship because you're choosing Allah over yourself. Discipline is a reflection of love. If you truly love Allah, you'll obey Him even when it costs you comfort. The one who prays on time, who fasts sincerely, who controls their anger, who keeps their promises. These are not people with superhuman strength. They are simply people who have trained their hearts to obey before they desire. They've learned that consistency pleases Allah more than intensity. Because what you do regularly, even if small, shapes your character, molds your soul, and builds your relationship with your Creator. There is something beautiful about showing up for Allah even when you don't feel like it, because that's when your worship becomes genuine, not driven by emotion, but by commitment. You're not doing it because it's easy, you're doing it because you love Him, and love without discipline is just a feeling that fades. But love with discipline transforms into devotion, steady, loyal, unshakable. Every time you choose to act with discipline, you're building a stronger connection with Allah, brick by brick, moment by moment. The undisciplined person lets life control them. They move when they feel like it, stop when it's hard, and give up when results don't come fast. But the disciplined believer knows that effort matters more than outcome. They trust that Allah sees every step, every sacrifice, every struggle. Even when progress feels invisible, they stay consistent because they know that persistence in goodness is itself a victory. The discipline you keep today is the peace you'll feel tomorrow. It's not meant to break you, it's meant to shape you. We often think that worship is only in prayer or fasting, but discipline makes every action a form of worship. When you study with sincerity, when you work honestly, when you treat people kindly, when you fight your laziness, you are worshipping through action. Because discipline aligns your behavior with your faith. It brings structure to your spirituality, balance to your purpose, and strength to your soul. The disciplined believer doesn't chase comfort, they chase consistency, because comfort passes, but consistency endures. And when Allah sees that effort, the quiet sacrifices, the moments you pushed through when no one noticed, He rewards it in ways that no one else can. He elevates your heart, purifies your intentions, and blesses your steps. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about showing up for Allah again and again, no matter how many times you fall short. Because in that persistence, your faith deepens, your heart strengthens, and your soul finds peace. So remember, the one who is disciplined in their faith is not controlled by the world. They are guided by purpose. They don't rely on fleeting motivation. They rely on meaning. And in every act of restraint, every moment of control, every quiet victory over the self, they whisper with their actions what words could never express. Ya Allah, I choose you. Every single one of us will stumble, will make mistakes, lose balance, face disappointment, and sometimes fall so hard that it feels impossible to rise again. But Allah, in His infinite mercy, never defines us by the fall. He defines us by our willingness to rise. The beauty of faith is that no matter how far you've fallen, Allah is always closer than your defeat. He doesn't look at how many times you've failed. He looks at how many times you've returned. Every fall carries a divine invitation, a whisper from your Creator saying, "Come back to me, I'm still here." The believer never stays down for long because he knows that every hardship is temporary and every wound has purpose. When you fall, it's easy to let despair convince you that you're finished, but despair is the language of Shaitan, not of faith. Shaitan fell once and gave up on mercy. The believer falls 1,000 times and still says, "My Lord, forgive me." That's the difference between destruction and redemption. Allah doesn't expect perfection from you. He expects persistence. What matters most is not that you fell, but that you refused to stay there. When you rise after falling, something within you changes. You become humbler, softer, more aware of your dependence on Allah. You stop relying on your strength and start trusting His. That's what the fall was for, to remind you that you were never meant to walk alone. Sometimes Allah allows your weakness to surface so you finally recognize His strength. Sometimes He lets the world push you down so you'll fall into sujud and find peace again. What looks like a setback in your eyes might be a rescue in His plan. Every difficulty you face has a purpose to bring your heart back to its true home. We spend so much of life chasing stability, trying to build a life that doesn't shake, forgetting that this world itself is unstable by design. You will lose things, face betrayal, confront heartbreak, but none of that is meant to break you. It's meant to remind you that real security isn't found in people or possessions, it's found in Allah. And once your heart learns that, falling doesn't terrify you anymore, because you know the one who catches you every time. When you connect your struggle to Allah, even the act of rising becomes a form of worship. Every time you push through pain, every time you forgive when it's hard, every time you keep faith when you don't see results, that's victory. That's how you grow. Allah never measures you by how easy your journey is, but by how sincerely you walk it. And when you walk it with faith, no fall is wasted, no tear is meaningless, and no failure is final. You become stronger, not because the path is easy, but because Allah strengthens your heart with every test. The truth is, the world will see your mistakes, but Allah sees your efforts. People may judge your past, but Allah looks at your potential. Others may turn away when you fall, but He waits for you to rise. And when you do, He replaces your shame with honor, your weakness with strength, and your loss with wisdom. That is His mercy. Not that He prevents you from falling, but that He teaches you how to rise higher every time you do. So whenever life knocks you down, remember, you are not alone and you are not defeated. The same Lord who watched you fall will lift you again if you turn to Him. Keep walking, keep believing, keep rising, because Allah never lets you fall without giving you wings to soar even higher.